Alright, you are with Eric at EHS Racing. I am fixing to do a big pipe shootout. I have done some preliminary runs with all these exhausts, so I kind of know the results already, but I'm going to try to shoot them in a video here as I am going. Okay, we have first up is going to be the stock exhaust. Okay, I'm going to get some baseline pulls. Stock exhaust, I have a wideband welded in there I used for testing to do the air to fuel ratios. These tests are going to be done all with my flashed ECU. Well, that one's flashed. I have basically a whole bunch of flashes I came up with for different scenario pipes, all with this fuel custom intake. So I got them all preloaded in all these ECUs over here. I also have a Vortex. I'm going to stick in a couple scenarios so people can see the results with that. I got some with my maps in the Vortex, factory maps with the Vortex. I'm going to weave them in as we're doing this testing. First up is going to be the stock, like I said. Then we're going to go to the Yoshi. And then I'm going to do the Empire. This is their standard motor configuration pipe. And then we'll go to the Barker. Then I have this other round can Barker. This is actually kind of a one-off, one we were testing. It is a 1/8 inch bigger head pipe diameter. This one may be the pipe they go to in the future. I got the RP Pro pipe. And then I have another Barker. This is one that they did for the modified bikes with remote reservoir shocks. And it doesn't fit with a stock shock. Neither did this RP. And then we got the Empire Big Bore. Really these three pipes at the end here are all kind of designed for built motors, but they do well on a stock motor. And truthfully, I would rather have that on a stock motor than the other pipes. So, I'm building maps for everything. But this bike is stock. It's got a fuel custom intake on it and a flash. That's it. And so all these numbers, realistically, all these pipes perform pretty similar. So we're going to see a lot of data just kind of look like it's laying over top of each other. There is slight differences. I'm going to shoot the dB meter here, try to get it in line with the pipe while we're doing it, and basically just make a video for each pipe. I'm going to do a quarter throttle, a half throttle, and a full throttle pass, mainly just so I can get some heat in the pipe before we're doing the full throttle pass. There could be a couple of them coming down that I'm going to have to do a couple full throttle passes to make them fair if they get a RPM blip or something weird happens in there, so it's good data. But we're going to start it up here. Okay, stock pipe. I will come back and shoot a video as I'm doing it. And I'm going to weave them all together here at the end, show some dyno numbers, and hopefully it's a great shootout. Stock pipe, quarter, half, full throttle. I didn't pull out the first ones all the way to the rev limiter. Just doesn't seem necessary. Alright, so we're run number 2 is what we're going to save. We're going to label that as stock pipe. There we go. Alright, these are our numbers. 44 horsepower. Okay, I will come back and we'll start overlaying data. Test. I am also going to do a Vortex that I have mapped for this setup. Actually, let's do first test. First test is a generic Vortex map, like you would buy basically from the internet. Settings. This is map 8. 555. How you would probably get it and run it from the internet. You can hear it pulls a little farther on the RPM. I don't have it turned up in the stock ECU. Let's see how the pipe mounts. Alright, so we should have, alright, our green line is the stock pipe. Let me get back here where we can see the data. Alright, we're going to get rid of 3. That's quarter throttle. 4 is half throttle. So we'll get rid of those 2. 5. Alright, so 5 is going to be our ECU flash in the Yosh. That is the orange run. 6, here, let's compare these two first so we get a clear diagnostic or description of what we want. So orange was the first run with our ECU. Blue is map number 8. So a stock Vortex map. Green was a stock pipe with our flash, so better than stock. That's the horsepower difference of the pipe. Basically this green line from there to the blue, that's what you're picking up. The difference of the Vortex versus the stock ECU flash is going to be the orange and the blue. So right now the stock flash is beating the Vortex. If we bring back in the run that we did, the stock file, so we'll compare. Let's get rid of the stock Vortex map. Alright, there is a custom Vortex map. That's the red line. Pretty much tit for tat. The only spot that I don't really pump a ton of time into on stuff I'm going to ship out of the customers is right there at the end. You can see there's about a half a horsepower difference. But the Vortex is going to pull longer because the RPMs I got up higher also. We can do that on stock one, I'm just not sending it out like that. Air to fuel ratios, pretty similar. This is kind of where I like to set them. The way the ECUs actually work, they need to be a little richer than the Vortexes do, mainly because there's a lot more vacuum data in there versus throttle position data. Okay, I'm going to label these. Oh, that's good data. We should be able to go on to our next pipe. Check it out. Empire regular 3 passes. Okay, see the data. Alright, so we're gonna have a bunch of data on here by the time we get done. I'm gonna try to keep them all on here. So we're gonna get rid of the first 2 passes, which is quarter and half. Blue is the new one. Alright, we got a little bit stronger front side than the Yosh, and laying up top, super comparable. Air to fuel ratio is still pretty close. That was our EHS flash that I've made for that pipe specific. 2 passes. I guess a little bit more you're not seeing behind the scenes. I'm warming each pipe up maybe 20 seconds, 30 seconds before I turn the video on. Just making sure there's some heat in each one so there's no heat discrepancies. And then that's also why we're doing 3 passes, you know, and I'm trying to keep all the pipes about the same temperature, keep the engine temperature the same. So I can't think anything else really that would create more fair of a test, but we're going to keep testing. That's the Empire full. Run number 10 we're going to have on there, and that's the standard pipe. 3 passes. That is the Barker regular single in an oval can, which really don't make any difference. Alright, so let's see. So we got the brown run will be the full pass on that one. So we got red's quarter, blue's half, brown is full. Okay, so that is the new leader, which I've kind of known this. This is why I got these stacked up. If everything follows my preliminary testing, they're kind of sitting in order of the best horsepower. You can see the brown one right there, picked up. Let's go up against the next best. So I'll bring them back. So we got 2, 5, 10. So we'll leave the Empire in that one. You can see the brown picked up 3/4 of a horsepower there over the regular Empire, but they should keep growing as it goes. Air to fuel ratio is pretty similar. Okay, we'll be back. Next test. That was the Barker round can single, which this one technically is not for sale to the public, at least yet. It's basically the same pipe with a round can and an 1/8 inch bigger head pipe is their old one. But I think it's what it's closer to going to for some of the changes. Alright, so blue, 1/4 throttle, brown, half throttle, maybe 5/8, and then we got green right here. Okay, up there. Let's put it against the last best. It is almost identical. It picks up just a little bit out there at the end, which is similar to what I saw in all my other testing. Some of them it actually kicked up a little bit better yet. That one's on a little bit of the lower side. You know, that is almost in the margin of error. So almost the same exact thing. Alright, we're going to go on to the next test and come back. Alright, so this is the RP Pro Race, which you have to remove the rear shock to be able to make it fit. The only one with a resonator. Alright, let's see what it did for horsepower. So I switched it out. You know, as it's going, that has our flash signal for the big pipe, quarter half throttle. Alright, new pass is a 19, which is green. Which in my other stuff, when I was comparing it to the big full single at Empire, it made a little better front side and it lost a little up top. It is quieter though, so that's some of the trade-off with a smaller core. Alright, so let's go compared to that last best, which was the Barker round can. Here, let's get a different color. 19, so it's easier to see. Alright, so red is the RP. Very similar horsepower results. I may go throw the Vortex on here just because I know I'm going to have a whole bunch of haters that are going to say it's not due to having a Vortex. So let's do that. That way I don't have anybody doubting any of these results. Alright, we'll be back. Okay, we are back. I'm going to do a test. Change this here. Over here. Alright, so I am going to go to map number 8. This is a generic Vortex map. 555. I'm expecting this to lose horsepower. We'll see. Same pipe. I think I showed that last time, but anyways, we'll show it again just in case I didn't. Alright, one pass, blue line. Alright, our old run. So we got the Barker round single, big one. That's the greeny yellow looking one up there. Run 19 is our ECU with the current pipe that's on there, the RP, and then the blue line is the swap to the Vortex. So yes, loss of horsepower. As you can see, like, why it's losing, it's not because of the Vortex, it's just because of the tuning in there. Like, that's super rich. Okay. Plus, the timing's better in our ECU flash than the ones that come with Vortex. Alright. So this is another round can Barker single. This is one that they were making for GNCC motocross. It is designed to run with a Walsh subframe and no resi rear shock. It did better in preliminary testing than most of my other stuff did. But like I said, it will not fit a stock machine. So let's see. Alright, so we got quarter throttle, I said 3/8 throttle, half throttle. Let's get rid of those two. Alright, so our new run is this purple. Let's go. I guess let's get rid of some of these runs. Okay, so I got everything sitting there right now. There's a lot of data to look at. Alright, so we got the last two best pipes up there, which are RP in the mid Barker. RP is the red one. I'm gonna get rid of that. Yeah, let's leave that. Let's put the RP and that Barker. So that is purple. Alright, so what we're seeing is that RP was pulling just a little better on the front side. Make sure I'm not just looking at that. But the round current Barker's pulling better up top. Okay, both pretty solid passes. I mean, really every pipe in this whole setup is a pretty solid pipe. Everything's done extremely well. We got one pipe left, the Empire full big bore. So I'm gonna do that and we'll come back. Pipe. Alright, we got the Empire big bore. Alright. Quarter throttle. Half throttle, green, get rid of that. So let's put up the Barker, big bore, full single, and then the Empire. I would say super close. Empire might have got it by a snag on the front there, and right there, a half a horsepower. But I'm going to call that one the winner of the pipes that we have, especially being that it fits a stock machine. The other ones didn't. The next closest one that had a big head pipe stock machine is going to be, I guess, 16. So that was the big round can single Barker, and I mean that one's not even that far behind. Right there. Okay, let's go back to like the Barker regular. You know, look how close. All these pipes are just so close. There's a stock in there for comparison. But I mean, those are all super close. Let me start a new video and I'll come back and kind of a general sum it up one versus just that one. Okay, the conclusion video. So you get to hear me talk for a little bit. So the Empire Big Bore, I'm gonna call that the winner of the shootout. But even the one that I deemed the least best is still a pretty dang good exhaust. I was kind of excited to throw this Yoshi in here because I thought it was going to get blowed out, and it did pretty dang good. So kudos to that thing. Everything did really well. You know, if you have any of these exhausts on your machine, you're doing pretty solid. You know, there is worse options out there for sure. This is a collection of the good stuff, the kind of the stuff I see most people talk about. And I'm not saying that these are the only exhausts that people talk about or are good, but you can see how close everything really is. Why am I throwing big bore head pipes on some of this stuff for a stock machine shootout? You know, I will say, you know, what I wanted to show was a big head pipe doesn't really hurt a stock machine too bad. You know, as the dyno comparisons show, it actually does better. But on a modified machine, you throw 5, 7, 10 more horsepower at this, those big head pipes really start to shine, and you would see probably the results of, you know, a varied mix of horsepower results would be much more apparent then. Not what we're seeing on this stock machine. But like 90% of the world is running around with a stock machine, you know, especially on a YFZ. You know, hot cams are not the greatest. They're better, but they're not the greatest for this machine. You really got to drop some big money on it to make horsepower, which is, you know, just an inherent nature of the YFZ. I guess what you're going to see is a difference in the style and the look, you know, heat shields versus not heat shields, the mounting situations. But I mean, all these pipes are all pretty solid pipes. Okay, let's go over. I zoomed in on the horsepower data here so you can see it a little bit bigger, but I mean, it's still close. Okay, so we'll go over here. If you want to see the data, what color is your pick of choice? You should be able to see it. 2 stock exhaust, 5 is the Yoshi. We got Empire regular, Barker regular, orange, Barker mid. The RP is the brown, Barker big bore green, Empire big bore pink. Okay, so you remember them colors and you come over here and see where your exhaust stacked up. Blue, stock, apparently. And pink up there is probably the most peak horsepower. Pink's that Empire. Okay. But there's the difference. I mean, even out here at, you know, 10,000 right before the rev limiter, you're going to see the worst to the best is about 1.5 horsepower. You know, that Yosh was falling off. Which is, you'll see much more that it's falling off with more horsepower machines. Okay, from what I can tell, riding them, and I haven't rode all these pipes, but if I was picking an exhaust and I had plans of never modifying my machine past, you know, whatever your choice of airbox is in exhaust and tune, I probably would go with one of the smaller head pipes. It cracks just a little bit harder. If I had plans in the future to modify my machine and make more horsepower, I would go with one of the larger ones, you know, just so you're not having to buy another head pipe. The loss of throttle is not there. Like, it's really hard to tell that there's any loss, or crispness, and it's definitely worth sacrificing just a slight amount of that to where you don't have to drop $800 or $900 or $700, whatever pipe you're choosing, and you're going to throw cams or other stuff at it in the future. Because like I said, that will become much more apparent that there is a big change when you throw bigger parts at it. We had this throttle body from Empire over here that meant to go on here during the testing, but we got a little engineering left. We got to finish on that. We'll probably come back and do some more graphs shortly with a throttle body and some cams, and I'm going to choose one of these best pipes just to do testing on. I don't know if I'm going to do another shootout. What time do we start this at? So yeah, I started this at a little after probably 1:15, and it's 3:30 right now. So all this data was done within 2.5 hours of time. Super consistent. I did everybody a fair shake. We didn't unstrap the machine. It stayed strapped down the whole time. The same tire pressure. One thing I will say, some of this new Dyno software with the correction factors in here, today is probably one of the worst days. 1.01, 1.023s. This, the way it works is it shows the least amount of horsepower. I can leave this bike strapped down and it's going to be colder in 2 or 3 days and come back and probably show 2 or 3 more horsepower. Some of those WinPep 8 upgrades, how they did the correction factors in here, it just is not generous in this temperature range. Humidity, it's probably 75, 80 degrees right now, and kind of higher humidity, which is rare for this late in November. It's more like summertime. But everything was done on a fair shake within 3 hours max. Should be real good data. If I missed anything, I'm sure you will let me know. Appreciate it. Alright, we are back with a follow-up video talking about my ECU versus the Vortex on this scenario. We did a few passes in this video. I think it was with the Yoshi pipe, and I did it with the RP pipe, and showed the horsepower difference of one versus the other. If we had a stock ECU in here, you would see a whole different scenario. If we were doing this, my ECU versus a power commander, it really would be a whole different talk again. Like Vortex in itself is a standalone ECU. You can do a lot with it. It comes with a cost, but it is a very capable setup. I guess what I'm going to get at is why and who would want one versus the other, in my opinion. There is essentially, I'm trying to change the internet's mind, which I probably am not going to be able to. Like, how do you change the internet's mind? But I mean, small steps, I guess, and knowledge. I'm hoping some people will actually, listen, and they'll be able to make some decisions, because, for certain scenarios, it is a whole lot cheaper and better to go with our setup versus that. For other scenarios, and if you're a certain person, you're not going to want it. Like, it is not for you. It is not for everybody. I'm not trying to sell it to everybody, but for certain people, it is a much better fit, in my opinion. So let's go with who would want it. My ECU is going to cater towards anybody running one of these pipes, and our airbox that we make, or fuel custom intake, just a basic bolt-on package. You're probably not going to beat my setup for $200. Like, the cost factor is huge there. I can sell you a full pipe, intake, and a tune for like $1,100 or less. Tuning a Vortex is close to the cost of that, so essentially you're getting a free pipe and intake. Like, it is a big difference. Are you going to see that big a difference in horsepower? Absolutely not. Like, I got that part locked down. You are not going to see it. Who doesn't want it? Like, somebody with a custom scenario that I haven't made a map for. Like, I could make a map for any scenario, like, that is solid and good. Like, if you had custom cams, port work, big bore, I can do it. And I can probably do it about as good as the Vortex. But the time it would take for me to develop that, you're not going to want to pay for it. I don't want to do it. Like, I'm doing this to try to sell out the masses. Inside a stock ECU is extremely vacuum-based specific logic. It is very, very hard to tune. What you see in a Vortex is pretty much exclusively, you can do some vacuum logic in there, but it's pretty much throttle position RPM logic. Okay, it's kind of like tuning a smart carburetor, which, like, simple is better. Like, I don't dislike Vortex. They are really capable, really good, and really fast. When you start putting vacuum logic into things, like a head pipe diameter size can change the feel a whole bunch. Intake tubing size changes everything a whole bunch. The same with cams. The dwell time of the camshaft changes the vacuum side tremendously. Anybody that I have seen as far as modifying the source code in these ECUs, they are not digging into the vacuum side logic and re-engineering it like I am. Like it is the main reason. Like I've been working on this thing for a month and a half. Like I have so many hours in changing stuff, it's silly. Like I'm not gonna lie. If I told you how much, you would be like, why is this man investing that time and he's never gonna make any money back? But I'm pretty sure I'm gonna once it catches on. Like it is cool once it gets done. But like that said, if you're a race team or whatever that has access to a tuner, the Vortex is still the way to go. If we were comparing this to like a power commander, that's a whole different topic, because then you get into the piggyback equation versus standalone. Like a power commander is modifying the logic that the ECU spits out. So, it just there's hiccup. That's one reason, like this machine in particular, the R, like it just never did well with a power commander or a Dobek on a modified machine. On a stock machine that had like a pipe and a tuner, like it did pretty good. You could do what you needed to with a power commander, but once you really start going down that rabbit hole of mods, it just lost its functionality because the vacuum tables fell apart the way they were designed in there. And that was one reason, or pretty much the main reason, it took so long for me to develop this map. Like, I don't know, it's a lot. I needed like a Yamaha engineering team behind me, but it was me and just me. So, which is what you're going to see if somebody else is coming down this road, because ECU tuning is not new, and it's probably going to catch on a lot more in the future. But if you're not a solid tuner and you're jumping into it and you're thinking you're going to dang whip a map out in a day or two, like it is not that easy, man. I've been tuning for 20 years and there is a substantial amount of time that goes into this. What else? Cost. Cost is a big thing. Like I could sell you this whole package, like pretty much any one of these pipes. Well, maybe not. Some of them are expensive. Intake, tune, pipe. $1,100 out the door. Like that's half of your investment. And are you gonna get more horsepower the other? No. Like my setup's better for half the cost. Like that's who it needs to get it. And then down the road, if you want to modify it, you could do it with a power commander or a Dobek. Like you're just adding it. The vacuum table, all the math is solid. All right. We're going to do mapping for throttle bodies, different cams, a bunch of different scenarios. And as long as you have something that I've tested, it's going to work pretty awesome.